Hey everyone, and welcome to Module 13, Administrative Support of AT is what we're going to focus on today. And so let's go quickly through our intro here. The basic, tenets of what we're going to get through this during this module is you're going to be thinking about how your administration supports the use of AT and program evaluation as far as AT goes. So there's a QIAT or QIAT matrix that helps you sort of rate how your school or district is doing in their on their words on their standards. Sorry. Whew. So one of the assignments you have for this module is to complete that matrix on either the school and or district that you're currently in, or the one you've most recently been involved in. So if I know some of you aren't necessarily teaching in classrooms, so maybe your student teaching experience, or the most recent field experience you've had, or if you are closely tied to somebody in a school or district that's a teacher that you could ask them this, that would be acceptable as well. And then, of course, your part 3 of the case study is due this week. So otherwise, I kept it pretty light. This review of your school or district is really not that intensive. So you should still have plenty of time to work on your part 3. But let's talk about administrative support. So here's the quality indicators for administrative support when it comes to assistive technology services. You ask yourself, and you can rate your district on whether your school or district has a written procedural guideline that ensures equitable access to AT devices and services for students with disabilities, if required for FAPE. So here you're looking at, is there a clearly written procedural guideline on how to kind of provide access to AT for your students? Does the education agency broadly disseminate clearly defined procedures for accessing and providing AT services and supports? So again, are those procedures available in multiple formats so families and school personnel know about them and can find them? Is everybody aware of the procedures, or that they can find them somewhere and that they're expected to follow those procedures? The third one is the education agency includes appropriate AT responsibilities and written descriptions of job requirements for each position in which activities impact AT services. So if you're thinking about a special education teacher position, and possibly if there's like instructional specialist or something, or even IT, is any of that written into the job description so that when they start, they know they're supposed to have at least some knowledge of that information? Does your education agency employ personnel with competencies needed to support quality AT services within their primary area of responsibility at all levels of the organization? Different levels of knowledge will be needed at different types of jobs, but that they would all understand and are able to fill their parts of that related to AT, and developing and maintaining a collaborative system so that you can effectively get AT devices and services to students who need it. It's a big one. 5, does your education agency include AT in the technology planning and budgeting process? Ooh, do they consider that? So they're thinking not just about the general education technology plans, but special education as well. Number 6, the education agency provides access to ongoing learning opportunities about AT for staff, family, and students. Now, Georgia itself, the Department of Ed actually does a pretty good job with this. I think your local, I know the First District RESA does a great job with this. You just have to know to look for it, right? Number 7, the education agency uses a systematic process to evaluate all components of the agency-wide AT program. So not only do you have a program in place, but you have a system to evaluate that program. Is that happening? Effectiveness. The components of the evaluation process should include planning, budgeting, decision-making, delivering AT services to students, figuring out the impact those AT services have on student achievement. Like, are you collecting data on all of those things? Are there procedures that all administrators know about and use on a regular basis at the central office and building levels? So some of these things, you might have to ask some questions of people, because I'm not assuming that you know this information. So you might need to talk with some of your admin about this, on whether they do these things or not. Common errors we see in administrative support for AT is that if policies and guidelines are developed, they're not known widely. So then you don't have equitable application of the AT process. So it's basically those teachers that know about it, implement it, but then nobody else really does. So only their case students actually get the benefit of that. So that's not good. Another one is that it's not clearly understood that the primary purpose of AT in school settings is to support the implementation of the IEP and for the provision of FAPE. Maybe they don't understand that. They think, oh no, this is extra stuff. But no, this is actually to give free and appropriate public education access. Another common error, personnel have been appointed to head AT efforts, but resources to support those efforts have not been allocated. So they didn't give them time, they didn't give them any kind of a budget, they didn't give them any type of training opportunities, which, this sort of sets you up for failure there, right? The next one is that AT leadership personnel try to or are expected to do all of the AT work and fail to meet expectations. Remember, this should be a collaborative process. If you have an AT leadership person, that doesn't mean they do all of the evaluation, all of the assessment, all of the data collection. That should be disseminated. As a teacher, you're the one on the ground with the student, so you need to be doing a lot of this. And all the teachers that work with that student, all the paraprofessionals, everybody should take a piece of that, so that that the student has a fighting chance for success with this device or tool. All right, number 5, AT services are established, but their effectiveness is never evaluated. And so maybe you have some loose systems in place, but nobody's really collecting any kind of data. We're not really determining in any sort of quantifiable way, or even qualitative way, that this has been effective. So make sure, if a first step is getting it started, great, but you should also have a plan in place for how to evaluate that effectiveness. Even if it's giving the student some sort of questionnaire or survey at the end of each semester or at the annual review, that you can put into kind of a global place to collect that feedback. Okay, now that we've gone over those indicators, the next thing you do is you're going to download this matrix, which essentially has all of these indicators on it and a rating system. And you are going to, from unacceptable to promising practices. So 1 through 5, you're going to rate each of your school and or district on each of these quality indicators. And it's okay, you don't need to show this to anybody. So be honest. If you can't find any information on that, then it doesn't, and you have to rate them as unacceptable, that's good information. And that doesn't mean I'm telling you have to go show your admin that, but it might be a way for you to help start to push your district toward more quality practice when it comes to AT. So you're going to complete that matrix on your school, and then at the bottom of the matrix are some questions that you see here. You're going to do a little mini reflection, and this doesn't have to be long, a couple sentences for each one there. What are some things that your school district's doing well? Where do they struggle? What are areas you may not be aware of the procedures and need to do some research? I'd like you to do some minimal research at least. I don't need you to spend hours and hours trying to figure all these out, but reach out to a couple people and ask these questions and see if you can get answers. But then if there's something that needs a lot more research, then here would be the place to like let me know that you didn't get to all of it. I added some additional resources for you to help support your understanding of AT frameworks and procedures that are used by a lot of different districts. This article talks about technology AT for diverse students, which is important to consider also. And then the link to the GPAT process, which is part of the Georgia Department of Ed website. So if you haven't really explored that, or I would encourage, or maybe you did earlier on in the semester, I encourage you to take a look at it again. And then the last question you're going to look at or answer in the matrix is, if your school is struggling in specific areas in the QIAT matrix, what did you find on that GPAT website that would benefit your school or district? So I want you to be thinking about this way you can come to your school or district with some solutions, some ideas, because it's not really effective to just complain about something. It's more helpful if you have an idea for the next step. Okay, that's all for now. Let me know if you have questions, and I hope you enjoy this module.